All right, hello again, everyone. When it comes to innovation in wireless, mobile video is one service that ranks at the very top of the list. And there are no shortage of industry studies that point to its growing popularity. In fact, one report that was published earlier this year called Mobile Video the largest and fastest growing category of all mobile data traffic. In the past year alone, video viewing on tablets and smartphones has more than doubled just since our last conference. And today, mobile video accounts for 53% of the mobile data traffic globally. And by 2018, that's going to be nearly 70%. And driving this surge in mobile video consumption are 4G LTE networks with super fast speeds, low latency, and larger HD screens on both smartphones and tablets. In addition, consumers' growing appetite for content, wherever they are, is fueling the dramatic increase in the mobile video market. At Verizon, one of the ways that we're taking advantage of this great market opportunity is with LTE multicast, a new technology that provides a high-quality video experience to large audiences using a specific channel of spectrum. This lets us deliver content to thousands of concurrent viewers more efficiently than using multiple channels. Earlier this year, we demonstrated LTE multicast at the Indy 500 and at the Super Bowl. And if you visit our booth on the show floor, you'll be able to see this exciting new technology for yourself this week. Clearly, there's a huge opportunity in mobile video for the entire ecosystem, from carriers to infrastructure providers and also to the content providers. We're going to take a closer look at those opportunities and the related challenges during our panel discussion this morning. We are very fortunate to have with us three executives who are at the forefront of the mobile video ecosystem. I'd like to introduce them to you now and invite them to join me on stage. The first is Sean Bratches. Sean is the Executive Vice President of Sales and Marketing at ESPN. And of particular note, for our panel discussion this morning, Sean's team introduced the first live streaming cable channels online and on mobile devices through Watch ESPN, and that was way back in 2010. Let's welcome Sean. Sean,
thanks, Dan.
Good to have you with us.
Good to be here. Right over here. Thank you.
Next is Michael Combes. Michelle is the Chief Executive Officer of Alcatel-Lucent. As a key network partner with Verizon Wireless and other carriers here today, Alcatel-Lucent supplied the underlying 4G LTE network equipment for the LTE multicast demo in New York that I mentioned just a moment ago. Let's ask Michelle to come out and join us. Michelle, welcome.
Good to have you here.
Michelle. Hello. Nice to meet you. And the third member of our panel today is Tim Connolly. Tim is the head of distribution and strategic partnerships for Hulu, a well-known online video service. He's responsible for relationships with device manufacturers, online partners, and video programming distributors. Please join me in welcoming Tim. Tim, good to have you. So all these folks in the audience are anxious to hear what you have to say. And I tried to assemble some questions that I think would be important to the audience, some of the questions that we get at Verizon Wireless and we get at CTIA. So, I look forward to this discussion. Sean, how about if you start us off? So, fresh off the World Cup, just a great event. You saw all of the United States engaged in different ways than ever before. How much of it was done on mobile devices? What sort of trends have you seen that would be of interest to us?
Sure. Well, I think, one thing that the World Cup on ESPN did was really engage audiences across platform. We set records on television and audio and print and our news and information, and in particular on digital. In the digital environment, we saw 15.7 million devices stream over 2.6 billion minutes of content. And that was comprised of both live game content and shorter clips, like video highlights. And we had 5 million unique devices actually streaming live games, which represented about 30% of all the consumption across the platform. So, we see the World Cup and some of these bigger seminal events as being catalysts to launch our brands and to drive new businesses such as, or not new, but accelerate the growth of businesses such as mobile video. And we continue to have success in that. In fact, on Sunday, September 9th, which was ESPN's 35th anniversary, we saw the average minute on Sunday, September 7th, was over 1 million people on ESPN's digital properties. And a big catalyst that was driving that was our apps and our mobile web, which was driven in part by video. So it's a big part of our company in terms of how we engage our rights holders, how we engage our advertising partners, and ultimately fans.
Well, that's
and we appreciate the investment that you and Dan, you and Michelle have made in the networks to facilitate all of this happening.
Well, I want to ask Michelle, now that we have all that demand and interest, how are we keeping up with it from a network perspective? And then we'll get to Tim and talk a little bit about the consumer patterns that he's seeing at Hulu. So how are we doing this? How are we making this a great experience for consumers with our networks?
Well, I guess that it's clear that the world is changing. And I would say that we are entering in a video-first world, which is a dramatic change for all of us, because all our networks were mainly voice-centric. And so that means that we have to completely rebuild those networks in order to be able to accommodate this explosion of video traffic, as you referred to earlier on during this morning. So I think that we have many tools in our hands in order to achieve that. Obviously, this shift to LTE, which is amazing in the US. I'm coming from Europe, as you know, and we are all impressed by the development of LTE in the US, and I expect that to happen elsewhere in the world. We have still potential to increase quality, coverage, speed of the LTE network by bringing some new spectrum, as it was mentioned this morning, and also by building some new sites, leveraging small cells, which is a clear new frontier for our industry, which will improve customer experience by bringing this experience not only outside but also inside, where most of the content is used or leveraged. But behind that, there is obviously new technologies which are kicking in. You mentioned this morning the experience that we have had with you with eMBMS, which is bringing broadcasting type of technologies or multicasting type of technologies in the wireless network in order to cope with the explosion of traffic in a stadium or in a big event. And I guess that for the World Cup, it was probably, let's say it was something which was important, but you mentioned the NFL or all those events where it's taking place now. Behind this type of technologies, there is a cloud transformation. And what is behind this network or this cloud-based networking? It's really the idea that we have to provide to the customers a real live experience in one way or the other, and making sure that they will have a sense of an seemingly unlimited bandwidth, because that's really what is at stake. Of course, it will never be unlimited, but seemingly the customer should sense that he has unlimited bandwidth. Last comment that I would like to say, and that's great to be all together around this table, is that of course we can optimize the network in one way or the other, but if we really want to be efficient, we have to optimize the whole chain, meaning from the device to the network to the content provider. And that's what, let's say, we are working on in our labs, in Bell Labs, around what we call context awareness distribution, meaning that if I know what type of content usually you use, or if I know where you stand, then leveraging this information, we will be able to deliver the content in a more efficient manner. Take an example. I am, let's say, on the road, and I am about to enter a tunnel. The network senses that I'm going to enter the tunnel because the signal starts to fade away. So then this information is conveyed to the video server in order for the video server to accelerate the download of the traffic in order to buffer the traffic before I enter in the tunnel and keep my experience live when I am in the tunnel. So that's this type of stuff that we are going to work on, and we are working with our key partners, of course, Verizon being, let's say, one of the biggest one, in order to make sure that this live customer experience will become real.
When we demonstrated LTE multicast at the Super Bowl, Michelle was our guest there, and I think it might have been your first Super Bowl, so yeah. you got a good flavor for what goes on in America here around football.
Yeah, it was an interesting experience, I should say, for, let's say, a French citizen to discover your American football. So I had some difficulties to learn the rules to start with, but I guess that the experience, at least, even without the rules, the experience was good. Yeah, I am. And I went to a game Sunday as well, again. Good. So you'll see I was there.
Good.
You can be your tutor.
And how was your video experience in the stadium?
The video experience was brilliant thanks to those guys, to Verizon. Let's say unlocked with Alcatel-Lucent equipment, but the video experience was perfect.
I didn't know he was going to say that. Let's get over to Tim and Hulu. One of the things that I'm really interested in, we've been speculating around the consumer usage patterns for 3 or 4 years in terms of the mobile devices, the desktop, the living room. What are you seeing in your world that would help us understand that better? Maybe with some more specifics than our pure speculation.
Sure. Well, first I got to say this is a great homecoming for me. I'm actually an old Ericsson guy. I know. Michelle and I figured it out in the green room ahead of time. So I used to come to CTIA every year. I told Dan, this used to be called the CTIA IT show, and I remember the Wireless Data Forum and all the rest of it. So not only is it a good homecoming for me in that context, but I used to work for Sean, and I was actually part of the team that launched Watch ESPN in 2010. So
an integral part of the team.
I feel like this is, this is all coming together for me. But look, at Hulu, mobile it's a really critical part of our business. We didn't have a mobile offering until about 3 years ago, and in the last 3 years, it's grown from 0 to 20% of our total usage. We'll get about 500 million video views a month, of which now 20% are on mobile devices, and that percent, so not only is the 500 million, the total number growing pretty fast, but the percentage that mobile takes is also growing because PC consumption is going down. Mobile consumption and living room consumption are going up pretty dramatically. So mobile for us is critical. It's also that we have about 50% of our total subscribers using a mobile device each month. We know it's critical for them. They really expect that we have a great mobile experience, and we're working our best to deliver that to them.
I think just to dovetail off that, I don't think at ESPN it's not a zero-sum game. And we're seeing really distinct and interesting behavioral patterns as it relates to desktop, as it relates to tablet, as it relates to internet-connected smartphone, where prime time for desktop consumption of video is really during the weekday at work. And it is.
Only in the U.S.
Only in the U.S., of course. You guys are sleeping during the day.
You should not say it, so come on.
And then,
or drinking wine.
Yeah, that's true.
Drinking some wine.
And then prime time for internet-connected smartphones tends to be more weekend consumption when games are going on, and it really has the true sense of really creating new markets of time for fans to kind of ingest our brand, use your platforms and your technology. And then the tablets we see the consumption behaviors there is much more in the home than out of the home. Longer form, longer video views, more frequency on the tablets than the internet-connected smartphones, and even longer on the computer. So we're trying to balance that out, but it's actually, holistically, it's creating more consumer touch points for our brand, through these platforms.
Well, that brings up an important point with these changing dynamics in terms of the consumer patterns. Let's talk about advertising and monetizing mobile advertising and how that's working out. This is one of those undefined areas for us. And a lot of people are speculating on how we're able to do that or how the industry is able to do that. Sean, maybe you could start us off since you had the floor last. What are you thinking about in terms of mobile advertising? How effective is it on mobile devices versus the other screens that you have to work with?
Yeah, well, it's I think the strategy first was to get the content correct on the mobile platforms and figure out how we're populating those. And when we first started, we were building content specs to devices. Now we're about to launch a very dynamic, responsive platform for our apps and for our web properties that is going to create seamless integration, from a stylistic standpoint, from a content standpoint, from a personalization standpoint, from an advertising standpoint across these platforms. But I think you'll see some people that have done it very well and some people that have struggled a little bit with it. But I think that goes from a publisher to publisher. We've been very successful on the display front, on the pre-roll front, and as it relates to Watch ESPN and live games on dynamic ad insertion. And so we're very focused on creating the best experiences. We think native experiences are really critical, particularly on the mobile platforms as it relates to smartphones. I'll give you an example. It's not going to include a tunnel, but the Coors Cold Hard Facts, a property that was actually built on SportsCenter. One of the things we're integrating into our mobile platform is we're finding interesting facts that are relevant and germane to the content on the screen at the time, and under the banner of Coors Cold Hard Facts. And what that's doing, it's allowing an advertiser to create an environment that is relevant to their brand and conveying some type of value to the consumer that the consumer or the fan, finds relevant to the content that they're consuming. So, and then personalization is I think huge along that front as well. We've got. We call it, because we don't have customers, we have fans, we call it FRM, not CRM, but we have knowledge about 35 million fans, and we know, we know a lot about them. And when they come into, the 50 million downloads of the SportsCenter app, or we've got 9 million downloads this year of our fantasy app, people are telling us, what their favorite teams are. They're, on our fantasy app, as an example, we surface their teams. What's going on. If someone is injured, we send them alert. We send billions of alerts every single day. So those are all opportunities on the advertising front to engage.
So if we stay on mobile advertising for a minute, Tim, your perspective, where are the advertisers? Where are the people that are spending the money, investing the money? Where are they in their thinking? How skeptical are they to ensure that they're getting the payback on their investment on mobile for video? What are you seeing? What needs to happen to move it along faster?
Yeah, look, I agree completely with all the stuff that Sean had talked about. The truth is that advertising on mobile, it's kind of tricky, right? In television, as an old Disney and ESPN guy, I know that in television you've got Nielsen. And a lot of people, complain about Nielsen, but at the end of the day, they're a measurement standard that advertisers buy into. Mobile devices, Nielsen hasn't yet been able to bring their advertising measurement technology to mobile in a good way yet. We are working with them, ESPN, and really the whole industry is working with them. So it's coming, but it is going to take some time. But in spite of that, look, we've been able to find a way to build a significant ad business. In 2013, we did about $1 billion of revenue, a significant portion of which was from advertising. Now, I know $1 billion to you guys is fairly small, but
$1 billion is a lot of money.
We like B's, as we say.
Yeah.
But so advertising is really important to us. We've found a lot of ways to, on digital platforms, do creative things with. We've got a fly up here that seems to be getting us.
We'll get them before the end of the panel.
Exactly. So we've done we have a pretty good track record of innovation on advertising on computers thus far. We did something a number of years ago called the ad selector, where we allowed consumers to choose which ad they saw. And the choice alone makes the consumer more happy, and the advertisers really happy, because the consumer has then shown intent. We're also doing another thing right now we just rolled out with Pizza Hut called the in-stream purchase, where when you have a Pizza Hut ad in Hulu, you can, straight from the ad, without leaving Hulu, actually order the pizza to be delivered at your house. And we're really excited about this. We've got one more thing that we're doing with Corona on mobile specifically, again, where the consumer is allowed to choose the creative that they see. They then can ask and interact with the brand itself, as well as follow up and take, and follow the calls to action. So even though the advertising situation is a little bit difficult in mobile, the sort of the ecosystem is developing. The creative and and adventurous and aggressive advertisers are stepping in, and they're stepping in a big way.
The other thing I'd add to that is that at ESPN anyway, we are, we've got some wind behind our sails, in as much as we have skin in the game across multiple platforms. And about 80% of our typical deals contemplate, with an agency or an advertiser, contemplates more than one medium, and about 50% contemplate more than three. And the common denominator, in addition to television, is really digital, which includes mobile. So as a television company first, we're able to engage advertisers and agencies on the television front first, to drive money across all of our platforms, and create campaigns that really work for advertisers, that support advertising on the mobile platform, that is in some respects leveraged by the strength we have in television.
Well, one of the things that you've mentioned in all of this around advertising was personalization. I'd like to go to Michelle for a couple of minutes around the capabilities of cloud computing, real-time analytics, and then I'd like to transition back to personalization, what it means for personal security, privacy, how your companies are thinking about that. But Michelle, if you could get us started in terms of the engine and the capabilities that we have available.
Yeah, of course. I guess first, we have to fix the basics altogether, meaning that when you look at some statistics, still 60% of the streamings which are delivered on mobile are experiencing some quality issues. So which means that if we really want to have this video-first world and experience all what was presented by my two neighbors, it's clear that we have to fix this issue in one way or the other. Hence, what I have already mentioned around the expansion of the network and around entering new capabilities in the network, such as eMBMS. But you're referring also to the cloud. I guess that's the next stage, in order to really be able to provide the network in an automated manner and to consume network as we consume today compute or storage in a data center. And that's what is about when we're speaking about virtualization and software-defined network, which is really the next stage of the evolution of the networks, in order to have networks which will be much more accommodated to your own personal experience. And that's what you're looking for when you want to broadcast or to distribute your different content. Take an example with CDN, which let's say is now rolling out in wireless networks. If you virtualize a CDN, then that means that you can scale up your CDN in a very efficient manner in one stadium if during an event you have specific needs to accommodate, and then you scale it down and you are going to scale up your network elsewhere. So you have a much more dynamic approach of your network, which will unlock a much better experience. In terms of analytics, I guess that's really where is the second next stage, which means that if we can leverage network analytics in one way or the other, meaning understanding what is the experience of the network, whether we have, let's say, overcrowded traffic on the network at a different stage, if we can mesh it with analytics coming from the user itself, then we can really go to personalized distribution content, which will match exactly the experience that you want to deliver. And so that means that the network will adapt itself to your personal needs, depending on what type of content you want to consume and where you stand. So that's where I think the networks are going, meaning that up to now that was an undifferentiated network, and we are going to a personalized network, much more scalable, much more dynamic, and that's what is needed in order to provide this seemingly unlimited bandwidth experience I was referring to. So last point that I would like to mention maybe is that we have discussed a lot about content distribution. I guess a new revolution as well, which is promoted by social networks, is user-generated content. And there again, the networks have to adapt themselves in order to improve the latency, in order to improve the quality of service, in order to provide from the cloud tools which will allow each user to really professionalize its ability to generate and to set up its own content. So I guess that we're really at the very beginning of user-generated content, and that will be the next big move in our industry. That will be the next big move in this video-centric industry that we are building all together.
Michel, you've given us a very good profile of the technical foundation from cloud computing to data analytics to personalization. Let's talk about the social aspects of this a little bit. Tim, maybe you could start us off. What are the concerns from a consumer? What sort of questions or feedback are you getting that are of interest around the personalization, around the knowledge that you'll have resident in your systems? Are you using opt-in? How are you managing this? And then, Sean, I'll come to you.
Yeah, look, I mean, what we see is that consumers absolutely want a personalized service from us. And we know, look, we have very good data in terms of what consumers are watching. If they like this show, if they like Modern Family, then they'll probably like Brooklyn Nine-Nine. And so we should be absolutely in what we call our masthead, which is our main kind of featuring section of our applications and websites. We should be promoting to each individual the consumer that they are most likely to want and to watch. And consumers are very happy to opt in and allow us to do that. In fact, they want us to do it because they just want something that's simple, easy, and entertaining. And the more that we can do a good job of trying to to monitor what they're doing and really surface that content that is ancillary and is going to please them, I think we are going to succeed, and they're going to be happier viewers because of it.
And your advertisers, because of that direct linkage, directly get benefit.
Yeah,
directly tie into that.
Yeah, they absolutely get benefit. And we get one of the other ad innovations that we've worked on is we ask a question after an ad plays, the relevancy question. Was this ad relevant to you? And if it's Purina Dog Chow and I say no because I don't have a dog, then guess what? I'm never going to see a dog. I'm never going to see a Purina Dog Chow commercial again. And so the advertisers are really happy about it. The consumer is happy about it because I don't want to see a Purina Dog Chow commercial. And so they're happy to share that kind of information with us, and we therefore with the advertiser. The advertiser is going to now know that they are going to get a better targeted sample. There's the old, I think it's, Sean, you probably know this, is it J.J. Wanamaker, the old advertiser who said, 50% of my advertising is wasted, but I just don't know which 50%. And so, if we can help him, help the advertising industry overall remove some of that 50% of waste, we are going to be happy, the consumer is going to be happy, and the advertiser is going to be happy.
Do you have a dog?
You know what? Truth be told, we just got a dog about 2 months ago, so I've got to change. I know. We moved from New York to LA, and when we lived in New York, we lived in an apartment building where you couldn't have a dog. And finally, my daughter broke us down, and we got a cute little Labradoodle about 2 months ago. So I've got to change my example. Yeah.
You did the right thing, though.
Yeah,
need dogs.
Kids need dogs.
John,
Yes.
Personalization and privacy. How are you dealing with that?
Right. Well, there's one thing that's I think that is kind of in front of the wall as it relates to opt-ins. And I mentioned, we had 35 million people that elect and opt-in, and we're able to target them in terms of their favorite teams, scores of those teams, upcoming games, injury reports, player statistics, things like that. And then there's the kind of the implicit that based on behavioral patterns across our platforms, we understand what people are doing, and then we can serve relevant content to them to create engagement. And And so we're doing that. And so on the advertising front, we're leveraging the understanding of those people that have opted in through one of the many paths, ESPN the magazine, ESPN.com, Insider, Fantasy, whatever it may be. And we're marrying that with third-party data from companies like BlueKai, and we're extrapolating the proclivities of the incumbent 35 million to a much larger base that we can sell, and doing that effectively. But we'd love to get into the location-based advertising business, and I think we need your help to do that, both on both sides, and that is going to be challenging as it relates to privacy concerns and how you manage that. So we're willing, I think, to rub up against the edge, but we're very cautious. We're owned by the Walt Disney Company, who is myopically focused on privacy and takes it, for obvious reasons, very seriously. But we see it as a huge revenue opportunity for all of us in the future.
Okay, thank you, Sean. One of the next area I'd like to discuss is talk about technology. Michelle, maybe you could start us off. Technology, the speed of change, the development of apps, the importance of over-the-top versus linear. If Tim and Sean, you could get into that, really the center of your world. So, but what do you see, Michelle, with development and the rate of change and what we can expect?
I think that, let's say, we have all seen, because you are part of this trend, a fantastic acceleration of technology improvements. And you were given this morning fascinating figures around the LTE rollout, which let's say in the past few years has been an amazing rollout that you have experienced in this country. So I think that it will not stop. I mean, as you know, we're already working on the next stage in terms of LTE technology. So LTE Advanced, we're already working with some of you guys around 5G. So what it will mean, it will not be a new air interface, but it will really be a meshed experience in between fixed and wireless network, fully virtualized, fully distributed, cloud-optimized networks, in order to really deliver the experience that we were referring to in terms of personalized experience, which is really what I think is coming in, let's say, the mid-run. We will speak of the network of you rather than of the network of everyone. So that's what I'm seeing, and which makes me extremely optimistic in our ability, on one side, to face the explosion of the traffic, because you were mentioning, let's say, the growth of the video traffic. I guess the forecast is, let's say, to have in the next 10 years probably a 100x growth in terms of streaming hours, and it will be even more in terms of data transmitted, because of course you have more and more enriched experience which has to be, let's say, delivered to the customer. So the networks have to be able to accommodate to this type of traffic, and my view is that the networks are ready to do it. We just need to make sure that all those new, let's say, technologies will be properly implemented in the networks. And so I hope that Verizon will continue to invest with his preferred partner, Alcatel-Lucent.
Well,
that's right,
was,
Dan.
let's
Come
say,
on.
maybe I was not able to. Okay.
Yeah,
it was a
signed
large
those,
comment.
Yeah, I signed those checks that we sent to you, and
you like it.
Pretty substantial.
Look, it's a good experience that you can deliver to your
Dan,
customers.
I think he wants you to invest more.
Yeah, I didn't want to say it that way, but I guess more investment would be better. You're right.
Guys, what I'd like to do here for our remaining time is to give you an opportunity to tell us what you think we should expect around mobile video 3 years from now. I think back 3 years when I was at this conference, and this wasn't even a conversation. And now it's over half of the data traffic. So in terms of the consumer experience, if I give you each a couple of minutes, maybe you could help us see into the future a little bit and what we'll be talking about 2 or 3 years from now. Tim, you want to start us off, please?
Yeah, sure. Look, like I said, after working in the mobile business starting in the 90s and seeing the WAP browser and showing my brother the first BlackBerry, and he was saying, why would anyone do email on a mobile phone? It's kind of amazing the evolution that we've seen. But look, mobile is particularly interesting to people like us, I think, because It can operate in, this is a little bit sort of my parlance, but it can operate in two modes. It can operate either as in the primary mode, where it is the screen in which I'm actually watching the video, because I'm out and about and this is the only screen I have available to me. Or it can act in secondary mode, which is I'm at home, I've got my 55-inch television in front of me, but I do also have this other device in my hand. And we as a content provider and as an advertiser have a really unique opportunity to, we're absolutely pursuing this first level, and this is that 20% of our total traffic that I talk about. We have really not even started scratching the surface in terms of a mobile device being that secondary or complementary experience that we can provide to a consumer. Now, there's been a lot of testing and effort we did, when I was back at Disney and ESPN. We tried some second screen stuff, and it's not easy to figure out exactly what consumers want surfaced to them while they're watching their episode of Modern Family or they're watching Monday Night Football. So we back in my old days there, we tested and learned, and we still tweaking it. But the truth is that we have an ability with mobile phones in that secondary kind of mode to surface more content about the actual shows they're watching, about also the advertisers and the products that they're seeing, and we know that consumers want it and interact with it. I can't tell you how many times I'm watching a movie or watching a television show and I go to IMDb to see, hey, wait, what has that guy been in before? So there's huge opportunities there, and we have a good degree. We really just started scratching the surface in terms of, we created a remote app. So if I'm watching Hulu at home on my Xbox game console, the Hulu app on my phone can actually act as the remote for the Xbox. I don't need to use the controller, I can use my Hulu app. And that's really just the start. We think there's a huge amount of opportunity to expand beyond there, and we're really excited about it. We always say we're in the golden age of television, and that's for two reasons. One is because there's many more opportunities for great creative minds to really develop interesting new television. The amount of change there has been unbelievable in the last 20 years. But then the second part is that technology is enabling us to do new things with that content and with that experience and create these. It's literally part of the mission and vision of Hulu, the company, is we want to create amazing experiences that viewers love. And so mobile in particular provides us a great opportunity to do that.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Michelle?
Well, I guess that we have spoken a lot about content delivery entertainment. I guess that in 3 years from now, video will be everywhere. So we'll be in a real video-centric mobile world. That means video communications, that will be the next stages of voice over LTE and all the new stages which are coming, but also in professional usage. We're working, for example, in Las Vegas with Las Vegas Police for safety networks, which will be completely enhanced by this video experience, which can allow them to completely change the way they do their own business. So I think that video will be in a video-centric world, video first. I strongly believe that the network will have fully evolved along the lines that I have already mentioned, and that, let's say, my only ask or my only request is for the rest of the world, not only US, to embrace this transition. And we are still a little bit far in other regions of the world, such as Europe, which has not yet completely understood the need to invest in those new technologies.
We're going to make sure that the U.S. remains the technology leader. So
yeah, but if you can remain a leader and help Europe also to transition there, that would be great. So I will invite you in France soon. That will also help me a bit.
We're glad to help out. Sean, your final thoughts, please.
All right, I'm going to give you two, and they're all about Michelle. The first is I'm going to, in 3 years, I'm going to convert him into a New York Giant fan. And,
yeah.
Notwithstanding that just horrific performance last night against the Lions, albeit did a great rating on ESPN. And secondly, I think the thing that I'd like to see, and I think we're going to see, is we're going to see an improvement in measurement on the mobile platform. You're going to see Nielsen through their OCR and ComScore through their VCE platforms develop beyond an impression-based measurement platform to a demographic-based ones which we can monetize. And once again, to start with Michelle, to end with him, so Dan and I can invest more with Michelle.
All right.
What a good round table.
Hey, wait,
I have
I'm
new
for investment
customers,
too,
so
yeah.
maybe you should invest
You
as
have to
well.
ask for it. He was the only one that asked.
You know, we have had such a great audience and great guests here with us today. I want to thank you for your attention and your interest in this panel, and for those of you that are watching this on the web, hopefully on your mobile devices. You can see why I was so fortunate to be able to chair this panel with the quality of the guests. Let's give them a round of applause and thank them for their contribution.